Hi, Philippa. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sumaiya Noor, and I am a Google Women Tech Maker. And I have been working in tech industry for last 13 plus years globally. And I have worked in different technology areas, including digital transformation, product management. But I started my career as a software engineer. And this is an event for International Women Day 2023. And I'm so excited to be here to share my journey with you and with all our audiences. And I would like to share a lot of things which I have learned throughout my journey as a woman in tech. And I would also like to share some of the challenges which all of us as tech professionals face, but they are more specific to women sometimes. And I would also love to share some of the learnings which I have throughout this journey with my fellow women tech makers across the globe, but also for the women who are aspiring to enter into tech industry, who are currently either going to school to have their STEM degrees or who are either planning to initiate their careers in technology. So I'm really excited to be here. So I will start a little bit overview of my story first for the audience to know that where I'm coming from and what qualifies me to share some of those learnings throughout my journey. So I started my career almost 15 years earlier. I'm by training a software engineer, and I then did my MBA and MS as a Fulbright scholar from US. I'm originally from Pakistan. It's a very different country with a very different culture, and also very different and sometimes challenging for women as well. But even growing up there, I'm very fortunate that both my parents were educated. And I would say that I don't come from a privileged background, but one of the privileges which I had that my parents were educated and they encouraged my education. So I always wanted to have an international career. So that was a deliberate intention right from the beginning. And then at a time when my father passed away, and then 3 months right after his passing, I moved to US. It was the first country I have ever moved to outside my home country or the country of birth. And I started my Fulbright journey there. Before that, I had 2 years of working experience. And as I said, that I'm a software engineer by training. So I worked as a software engineer, but then I moved into digital product management. And then I also did a little bit of talent and HR, as people call it in different parts of the world. And that was a very intentional move as well, because I specifically wanted to be a generalist, not a specialized person. Then after completing my MS from US in Purdue University, I was picked up by IBM. I restarted my career in US, and I was very fortunate to be selected for their leadership development program. And that actually enabled me and helped me to fulfill one of my goals of having an international career. Because in any of the leadership development programs across the tech industry, whether it's all the big FANG companies or even some smaller companies as well, they usually put you in different rotations and send you to different teams and different type of countries or regions. So I did in total 3 global roles with IBM and 1 regional role. And some of those roles were like product management roles, project management roles, mergers and acquisition roles, then in learning and development as well. And in terms of geographies, I restarted my career in US. I started on the East Coast side of US, then I moved to the West Coast, and then in between in the Midwest, and quite a few other states. From there, I moved to Europe, quite a few countries. Then I moved to Southeast Asia, specifically to Singapore, but that was for a short period of time. From there, I moved back to Dubai. It was my host station, but at that point in time, I was doing my regional role with IBM, and I was looking after 50 plus countries, which is entire Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Africa region. And I was leading some of the technology mergers and acquisitions in that region, specifically AI, cognitive, data and analytics, those type of things. So like being a software engineer and having started my career as a software engineer and then product manager, I always had this interest in technology, because since childhood, I wanted to, do things which can have an impact on general public. I never thought that it would be tech or something, but I wanted to create things which could create a little bit or maybe larger impact on communities and especially on women, but all the communities who are in certain way not that privileged like others, because technology fills a lot of gaps. So then after IBM, I joined Telenor, and there I also got an opportunity to work on their digital transformation aspect, because that was the time 2016 2017 when Telenor was moving from a mobile service provider to a digital service provider. So that was a very exciting time, but that was a short stint. And then I took some time off to be with family, because I was away from family for 7+ years by that time. And all of us, as I always say, that for being women in tech and in general professional in tech, we have careers, but then we have families as well. And sometimes we are required to support them in certain ways. But at the same time, I was teaching. So I was teaching at the topmost university in Pakistan, and it's the top 300 world, highly ranked world universities as well. And that's my alma mater as well. So I was teaching. That was not I wouldn't say that was a career for me, but that was a way of paying forward, so that whatever I know, I can, just share it with the students and everything. And that was a very different experience than my corporate experiences or big enterprise or Fortune 100 companies experiences. And then after that, shortly after that, I became a VP of HR and digital transformation with a conglomerate, and I was leading the entire 10 companies in that conglomerate that was in prop tech industry. And the companies were based in both Pakistan and UK. And then I was due to move to Canada for a while. In December 2018, I moved to Canada. And since then, I'm based in Toronto, Canada, although I have traveled to different parts of the Canada, but I'm based here in Toronto on the Eastern Coast. It's much more colder than New York, many of the areas in US, and especially if I compare it with the West Coast of US. But it's an exciting place to be in tech these days, because the technology industry is growing a lot here. And I am currently leading our talent as well as product teams across both US and Canada for a fintech and prop tech startup. So that's a little bit about my journey. Questions before I move for to the next topic, where I would like to share that what are some of the experiences or learnings which I have through this journey, and how it is different for women in technology as compared to their male counterparts, and what type of challenges or what type of advantages they have when they're pursuing their careers in STEM or tech careers.
That sounds great. You have a vast and impressive. I'm sure it sounds both exciting and exhausting, and I'm sure challenging and rewarding to have lived in all of those places and done all of those things. At this point, for me, having a life that I grew up on the East Coast, I lived on the West Coast, I lived in Colorado, we have a lot of family in England. I'm constantly still very fluid between all of those places. So you clearly have had a breadth of place experience. And as I am an emerging map maker, I have a whole lot of new ways of sort of seeing places, having studied urban planning and now getting into cartography and digital maps and human security. So yeah, it's the world is it's big and it's small at the same time. So yeah, I'd love, I'm sure this next piece that you'll share with us will give us some insights to what you've learned in those travels and in that work.
Sure, Philippa, and thank you so much for your kind words, and I would be happy to share. So as I said, that I am actually originally born in Pakistan. So my biggest challenge is coming, it's twofold. First, that I was born in a society which is highly patriarchal. When I was younger, I used to think that Pakistan is the only country with that type of society or system or setup, whatever you want to call it. And that was a huge challenge for me, sometimes at home as well, but mostly when you don't sit at home all the time. Most of my life has spent either studying or working. So society makes you realize all the time that how probably you're different, I don't want to say, but their main intent is to make sure that you feel somehow that you're inferior to the other gender, which I strongly don't believe in. I strongly believe that when men and women have their own strengths, have their own personalities, they could be complementary to each other. And I strongly believe that certain personality traits or characteristics, they vary from individual to individual. It has nothing to do with gender. So I don't believe in very traditional or conventional gender roles or even gender related professions, because when people say, when I was growing up, and I still remember that going to the university in a undergrad of software engineering, in a batch of 60 plus, we were only 9 girls. And then when many people used to make these type of comments at that point in time, I wish I would have this type of knowledge at that point in time. I was very young, where people used to say women cannot code, or because I was doing software engineer and my specialization was in AI concentration. I wouldn't say specialization, I would say concentration in AI and robotics and electronics. So women use, I used to hear a lot that women cannot code, women cannot make robots, or their product probably would not be as good as of their male colleagues or counterparts. I strongly believe that it has nothing to do with any gender. One is not better than other. It's just that it depends that what type of individual you are, what type of passions you have, and how you try to or decide to utilize those passions. And when later on in my life, because of that type of upbringing or that type of exposure or experiences, when I got to read a lot of history of women in technology, I got to know actually programming language has been um, invented by a woman, Ada Lovelace. So the thing is that these are all stereotypes which probably we have in our mind, and many of us are lazy. We don't do a lot of research. I am a history aficionado, and I like read a lot of history, whether it's technology history, history in general, or geopolitical history. So now I know a lot of things that makes a lot of sense to me, that women, first of all, they belong to tech. You cannot say that a woman cannot be as good of a tech person or a tech professional as their male counterpart is. So that is one thing. And then the second thing, which right from the beginning I wanted to have an international career, because to me it's really important that I experience different cultures, I meet different people from different background. When I say different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, not only in terms of their regional or demographic backgrounds, but also in terms of like their educational backgrounds, their professional backgrounds, and their religious backgrounds, their ethnic backgrounds. And I really enjoy those type of interactions, because I am a believer that, at least for myself, I'm a lifelong learner and I learn from everyone. So it depends that how you, what's your perspective towards life or world overall is. So I would encourage so my first learning for all women is that do not consider your challenges or limitations uh, at any given point in your life, career, or time to limit you from pursuing your dreams. Because I have been told several times that I will never be able to have a career in tech, or maybe will never have a global career in tech. And I'm not saying that there are not challenges, and I will talk about those in a bit, but I'm also saying that regardless of those challenges, I'm not denying those. There are a lot of challenges for women in tech or STEM, which some of which I already shared. But the thing is that if you are determined enough, with all those challenges, with all the obstacles, with all the hindrances, if you have the conviction, if you have the perseverance, you will still continue and you will thrive in your career at one point in time. It's easy or not that easy, I will not comment on that, because it's a little bit more challenging for women to make their place in technology industry, but that is because of stereotypes. And right now, if I quote a statistic, in 2022 only 26.7% of all the tech jobs of all different functions or teams, only 26.7% is held by women. So we need to change that statistic. I am really passionate about bringing more women in STEM, or helping them or enabling them in my, whatever capacity I can, to change or to move that needle, to change that number, because we need to have at least 50-50 representation in technology for both women and men. It's not about gender balance only, but it's also about the economic outcomes. And if any country in the world, or world overall, collectively is not using 50% of the population for the progress of their economies or for the progress of technology, I don't think so that they can move at the same pace which they are capable of. So I don't have kids myself, so I cannot speak very specifically that how I managed responsibilities with kids along with my career. But having said that, that doesn't mean that I don't have family responsibilities, because as I said, I was in my early 20s and only 2 years of work experience when my father passed away. And I got a responsibility of four younger siblings and my mother. Although my mother was a full-time working woman, but she got retired 1 year after my father passed away. So then I got a financial responsibility of these five individuals, also to manage my family. So I can correlate this with having children, because I had four younger siblings. They were not my kids, but the relationship was similar because
Mhm.
they were all going to schools, studying. The youngest one was still in school, the other one were in college, university, and everything. So I took up that role. So I can tell you that how women, it's not, as I said earlier, that I would never say that it's easier for women. And you made a very good point, because that's why I'm against gender roles. When you put this onus or burden on women that they have to run the family, I strongly believe that we exclude the men out of that family responsibility. And we are not, first of all, we are not doing good for with women, because women, if they are working at 8 to 12 hours at work, just like a man, and then they're coming back home and they have another 8 to 10, 12 hours shift, so when would they finally get rest? And when would they finally take time for their sleep or any human uh, rest, like, which is a human requirement, right? We are not robots or something like that. So the point is that when we exclude men from the responsibilities at home, I think we are not helping our families in a certain way as well, because we are putting so much pressure or extra burden on one individual in the family. Finally she will break down, and it would not be good for the family, and it would not be good for her career. Now the thing is that when a woman have a career, she earns that money for her family and her kids and as well, right? So that's a huge contribution. It's not only her career, it's not only contribution to the tech industry or economy overall, but it's also a financial contribution to the family. And beyond financial contribution, I can speak to that because my mother was a full-time working woman with 5 kids. I mean, the whole point which I'm trying to make here, that if my mother would have not been educated, let me tell you upfront, the people who I went school with, especially if I speak of girls with whom I went to school, most of them, many of them, couldn't even, go beyond their 12th grade, couldn't even get into engineering universities or in, because it's competitive, just like US, right? And there are very few women there. So I strongly believe that society overall and male allies, whether those are husbands, fathers, sons, or brothers, whoever that is, or even male colleagues, they have to realize that they have to support women, because women have similar physical or humanly challenges which they have. So if somebody asks them to have a 8 to 12 hour shift at work and then come back home and have another 8 to 12 hour work shift without any support, I don't think so that's justified. And that's why I said right away upfront in my conversation that I don't believe in gender roles. When you are running a family, when you are running a house, why do we call each other partners? That means that we have to divide the responsibilities at home equally. Sometimes one will take a little bit more than other as per the circumstances or requirements, but putting one person under the all the pressure of the responsibility just because of their gender, I don't like. Do you have any historical or logical reasoning for that? Because I have not came across for one yet. And I think that women can have it all. They can have a family, they can have a kids, and they can still manage their careers, because I did that. And during this time, not only that I have four people to take care of financially and four younger siblings in terms of their education and growing up and everything, but I also took care of two cancer patients, very like close loved ones. And unfortunately I ended up losing them because I cannot save lives, but that was part of my journey as well, and I managed it along with my career. So at one point in time, I had to resign from like my really progressive career and have to be back with a family, but I don't have no regrets about it, because you can always bounce back in your career. So I believe that if I can, and right now when I'm speaking to you, my sister, my younger sister, because I'm the eldest, she is in hospitalized, and so is my mother in another country. So I am managing a full-time job. I am a startup advisor. I also am on few boards, and I do certain extra things with industry as well. And I'm managing it all. And again, as I said earlier, it's not easy. I don't want to give that false impression to everyone, but at the same time, it's manageable if you manage it in that way. But I would highly encourage men and all the allies, regardless of their gender, to support women in their career pursuit, because it's, as I said earlier, it's important for economy, it's important for the progress of technology itself to have diverse perspectives in the industry, but it's also important for the progress of our families, because educated or career oriented women, I personally believe, have a very positive impact on their kids or people around them, and they can be role models, and we need to have more of those role models. And it's not only about me. Recently, I was in a conversation with Deb Leo. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but she's the CEO of Ancestry.com, and she's one of those women which I really admire. She has kids, but she was saying that she's made similar points, because all of us face similar challenges. That yes, it's very challenging to manage all of it, but she also made a very strong point, and I tend to agree with her 100%, that her partner supports her a lot. So one of the most important decision which a woman can make in her career, it's a career decision, by the way. It's a personal decision, but also a career decision, that who she would decide to spend rest of her life. Because choosing a wrong partner doesn't only impact your um, good or I would say right or wrong partner, a good match or not a good match, doesn't only impact your personal life, but it also impacts your professional life and overall well-being. We all know that, right? We cannot compartmentalize our lives. Oh, this is my personal life and this is my professional life. It's integrated in so many different ways, and it impacts us as human beings if something goes or not according to the plan in one or in the other. So here is my second point. For women, it's challenging, as I said earlier. It's more challenging for women because of we still have to change a lot in terms of social perceptions and expectations which the society has from women. And it's also challenging for women because of the tech industry challenges itself, which I will cover in the third point. But I would encourage all the females as well as males to be allies for each other. Because if men are not supporting women, patriarchy actually harms men as much as it harms women. So if men and also I always make this quote, some people have this I don't know from where they get this understanding, that rise of women is not fall of men. They can grow together. Some people have this perception that if women will take more leadership positions, for example, in tech or in general, leadership positions, because less than 2% of Fortune 100 companies CEO are women, and that statistic need to change as well. I mean, at some point in time, and I think this is the right time, because now the AI revolution is coming in. We have metaverse, we have Web 3.0, all those exciting technologies coming in, and I'm super excited about those things, just like any male colleague there. So I think that I can make a lot of contribution there as well, given my diverse experiences in terms of functional capabilities, but also in terms of my cultural capabilities, working across the globe, which very few people get that opportunity. So I don't want to limit myself or women like myself, but then we need to have those allies to decrease those challenges for women. So as I said earlier, that I started as a software engineer when I started in my career, then I moved to product management, and then finally I moved to talent and HR. And people usually ask me, and I get this question in interviews very often as well, why did you make the switch? And I always tell them, it's not a switch. It's a combination and a very deliberate one. Because when I was working as a software engineer, I know that I have always been a people's person. I never had issues interacting with people, as I said, and this is one of my passions, to meet people from different backgrounds and everything. So it came from like really early, but then I decided that I want to be in management roles other than technology. Sure. Other than technology and other than uh, engineering as well, where I can make more impact on the culture. And my third point here is that why it's more challenging for women in the tech to make their space and to actually thrive to the leadership positions, because many men don't support them. There is an additional expectation from women to be nice and kind on top of their functional expectation, which usually is not there for many men. I'm not saying that being nice and kind is not a good trait or shouldn't be there in any leader. I think it should be there with every leader, because being empathetic and kind is really important. But if we put extra burden or onus on women to be kind and nice, even if the culture is toxic and they're trying to raise their voice, I don't think so that's the right expectation. And I also think that women should not be evaluated on additional criterias on which their male counterparts are not evaluated, because I strongly believe that people should be evaluated on a comparable role in a similar manner. And then if I take it further and bring it all together, I made 3 points: that it's not easy for women to break into tech and to survive in tech, but I strongly encourage everyone to do that, uh, because we have to change the dynamics which we have currently in the tech industry. And then there are challenges both on the social, personal, as well as professional levels, but we can overcome those challenges. And when people say that women cannot have it all, I strongly believe that women can have it all if they have the right type of allies at home as well as at professional workspace. And bringing it all together, I would just say one thing, that for women, it's extremely challenging in certain ways, that they have to work at least twice as harder as compared to their male counterparts in order to prove them in a similar role. And we also need to change those type of expectations or stereotypes about women so that we can support them. But in the end, women can enable a company, economy, and overall tech industry to move further at a much faster pace, which men would be doing if they will be doing it all alone. So we need to support women as allies. And with that, I'll bring it to a close. And thank you once again for having me, Philippa. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and happy Women's Day to everyone. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy International Women's Day, everyone.